So I grew up in a German-American home in upstate New York, and my mother and father were both immigrants from Germany. They came here after World War II. My father was actually a German soldier in World War II, and they got married here. I was born here. When I went to high school, I learned about what happened in World War II in Germany. I was just shocked to learn about the Holocaust. How could this have happened in a so-called Christian nation? This is part of the deep underlying passion that underlies this book project, One New Humanity. And about 5 years ago, I put together a vision document for the book, and one of the things that I wanted to know is, how did the early church address the text in Ephesians chapter 2, where it talks about the reconciliation of Jews and Gentiles inside of the church? And in particular, there's this incredible phrase. It says, through the cross, thereby killing the hostilities. I wanted to understand how the early church used this text. And one day I met Kristin, and I shared this vision document with her, and I said, Kristin, do you know how to do this research? And she did. And that's how we began working together.
Yeah, so initially I took 3 months just to look at how did the early church, especially before 400 AD, understand Ephesians 2? What were they doing with that? How were they grappling with issues of violence, division, and peace, and the gospel, and their Christian identity? Issues which I think have only become more relevant in the 5 years since we started this, more pressing, especially for the church in the United States at this time. And I've got to say, I was pretty surprised. I felt pretty familiar with the early church up until that point. But I was finding so much richness, and really it was unlocking all of Scripture for me and showing me how Scripture speaks really, really relevantly to the biggest questions that we're asking in the church, but even that people in our broader society are asking about violence, about addiction, about polarization, and what is going on in the world, what's going on in our communities and our families. And I found that a lot of the way the early church was looking at this in Scripture and in their own world actually connected more kind of with my background growing up in Thailand, and the way that maybe you could call it an Eastern lens put on the Bible, or non-Western perspectives. And so bringing that together with Scripture and with the social sciences began to just show something really beautiful and stunning and incredibly sobering about how the gospel speaks directly to these things today.